again with another web dev stream. I'm gonna relax the music volume for a minute. Yeah, welcome back. So on today's stream, I'm gonna be working on, as the title implies, we're gonna be building GitHub-style drag and drop image uploads. And the project that we're gonna be doing this in is called Playback. Let me get this local development environment set up. So I'll change into my Playback directory and run netlify dev. We can open up a code editor as well. Desktop volume down like that. Yeah, nice. I think that's better. If anybody's in chat that can let me know if the levels are okay, that would be much appreciated. Okay, so I've got my code editor open, and I'm starting up my development server. And now I can access this at localhost port 8888 once this is done. There we go. All right, so Playback. Yeah, Playback is an app that makes it easy for music video directors to get organized and have like really smooth shoot dates. And the way it works is this is the whole app here. Basically, a director would upload the song that they're shooting a music video for, and then they can divide that song up into these blocks, like sections of time in the shoot or within the song that they want to shoot content for. And they can add notes, like shot notes about what the content of this block should be. And the whole kicker is that when you're on set, you can go and shoot just a specific, time block without having to manually scrub around on, like, if you're using your computer or your phone or something like that. You don't have to like scrub around on a track, like finding the exact in point of your block and then like stop it once you're done that shot and scrub it back to the beginning and all that stuff. That's all handled automatically by Playback. So today, what I'm going to be working on is a feature for the actual block content here. So the content of these blocks are written in Markdown, and in Markdown we have the ability to provide an image, but there's no easy way to like upload an image and then like know where that image was uploaded and then create your Markdown image tag. So what I'm going to do is borrow a functionality from GitHub, and I'll show you what this functionality is that I'm talking about. When I say GitHub-style drag and drop image uploads, this is what I'm talking about. So you can already kind of see the similarities here. We have a title and this description field, and then GitHub similarly has a title and a description. And what it allows you to do is just drag and drop an image from your computer onto the text area, and it'll automatically start uploading, and then once it's done uploading, it will replace that little uploading status with a valid Markdown image tag. And I can see that, yeah, that would indeed work. So that is the type of functionality that I'm going to be going after today. So I'm expecting that I can drag this image over here. Right now, this is what happens. My whole browser gets redirected to that image. So yeah, let's jump right into it. Have some water first. And yeah, we'll get going. So yeah, the first thing that I'm going to need to do is prevent that default behavior. When I drop an image on here, I'm expecting, yo, what's up, Miguel? Yeah, I'm expecting this not to happen. So let's start off by preventing that behavior. Let's see. So this is all taking place in my block form component. So I can open up that file, block form, and I've got this, where are we here? This text area that I want to be able to drop things onto. So let's see. I can give it an onDrop handler, and for now let's just well, let's just make a function here. Let's say like event and say event prevent default. Let's see if that does the trick. Okay, cool. So that's preventing the default behavior, and now let's console log this event and see what kind of information we can gather from it. Maybe something about the file that was just dropped on it, perhaps. So I have this big event. Doesn't look, just as I quickly scan this object, it doesn't look like there's anything about a file, but maybe a quick Google search will illuminate something for me. So get file from drop event. So here, this is an MDN article. I'll link in the chat. I like this song, by the way. This is I'm digging this. Okay. So what I'm gonna be looking for is this event.dataTransfer property, which indeed I have in this. I just overlooked it completely. So let's console log event data transfer dot items. Let's see what we got. Okay, interesting. Looks like I can loop through the files. Maybe I can access it at index 0. Let's see what happens there. All right, cool. So there's my data transfer item. How do I actually access it? So I can call get as file. That's handy. I can also check if the type is a file. So that's that'll be pretty useful. Yeah, what's up, Pollux? Yeah, it has been a little while, huh? I've been pretty good. You know, lots of staying indoors and doing stuff like this, but yeah, I've been doing pretty well. How about you, man? You're are you, if I remember correctly, are you in the UK? So, oh, okay. I was confused. Anyway, today I'm working on implementing this feature of drag and drop image uploads in the style of GitHub's like issue content. So when you, if you're familiar with using GitHub, when you drag an image onto their text editor, it automatically uploads that image and then replaces that like uploading status with valid markdown, so you can render your image in the page. So in my app, Playback, I'm going to try to do the same thing so that when I can drag and drop an image onto this text area and have it behave in the same fashion. I want it to just like, yeah, have a little uploading status, and then in the background, upload that image to Amazon S3, and then when that upload's finished, we render a markdown image in the content. So right now I'm just working on trying to figure out how to use this this drop event. Yeah, I think it's going to be a decent amount of work, but hopefully we can get through it on a stream. Yeah, let's see. First things first, got to wrangle this this drop event. All right, and I have this information about my data transfer item, what it is, its kind. So I want to only accept files, and I only want to accept images at this time too. So I can also check this type value to make sure that it's an image MIME type. Yeah, it does seem like a relatively small feature, but I think we can cruise through this. I'm hoping. Let's. I mean, there's only one way to find out, right? So what I'm gonna do is first make a variable called item, and I'll say if item, making sure that this exists. Actually, I can use what I wanted to do is like check if the item exists and if item kind is equal to file, and yeah, I guess this is a good way to express this. And if item type, and then I'll probably match it against like a regular expression, or I wonder if I can make use of this MIME package. All right, so what I'm going to do is check to make sure that the item exists, that the item's kind is file, and the item type, it matches a regular expression. And we can test regular expressions using regex 101. This is a favorite tool of mine. So I'll have like a few example MIME types that I want to match. Image JPEG. And so now I can create a regular expression that I think will match these, like maybe image slash, and then something like that. I think that'll do the trick. So I can grab that regular expression and use this test method to test the item type value. So if it passes that, then we upload it. And in fact, we can call this getAsFile function on the data transfer item. So what I can say is file equals item getAsFile. And let's just console log that file now. Okay, so now I have a file. It has a name and a MIME type, and I can see the size of the file. So this is all really good. And now I want to upload it to S3. But before I get into any more of that, I think that this is maybe a good opportunity just to break apart this this functionality out of this main component into its own like special text area component. So what I'm going to do is say like, I'll call this notes input maybe. And we'll just make a file or a component right here called notes input. And right now, all it does is it renders what we currently have. And what I'm going to do here is just take this file that I was, or this function that I was declaring inline in the onDrop prop, and define it outside of the component, just to make things more tidy. Handle drop. It'll take an event, and everything else is the same. And the last thing I want to do is I can just spread all props that come into this node input, notes input, yeah, into the text area field. And that's specifically default value, I guess. Yeah, let's just use default value for now. And that was props.block.description. And there it is. Okay, and I can still type in it. Great. Okay. Oops, not delete. All right, so I have my file. Now it's time to try uploading this thing. So I did, earlier in this project, I handled file uploads for these like audio files. So, you know, a user can upload an audio file, and then we upload that to S3. Hey, what's up? Not sure, of course. Yeah, go ahead. To do this audio file upload, I was using a technique called Amazon S3 signed URLs. So the catch with this particular project is I'm using serverless API. And in the case of the serverless API provider that I'm using, which happens to be Netlify, they have a timeout on all requests to a serverless function. And I think it's something like 10 seconds. But regardless, like whatever the timeout is, what that means is that if if somebody tries uploading a large file, or somebody tries uploading a file on crappy internet, that request might take longer than 10 seconds if I'm using my serverless API to do the upload, causing the request to time out, and then my app doesn't work. So to get around this, what I can do is, and what I have done, is in my GraphQL schema, I've made this, where are we? I've made this create signed URL mutation, where using the S3 API, instead of just uploading the file in my own API, I use this S3 get signed URL method to get like a pre-authenticated URL that I can then upload directly to S3 from my application, thereby like bypassing the 10-second timeout limit that my API will have to suffer through. So then once I get that file directly uploaded to S3, I just get back the location of the file, and then my requests to my API are going to be very small. Like I'm only sending a string, the location of the file, rather than the entire file itself. All right, so not sure, of course, asks, I've been using GraphQL. I don't know if I'm using it wrong in the front end. I've been changing state using me query, like if one of the values on the me query is null, that part won't render, or doing a conditional statement. Is this a fine approach to follow? Should I be using mobx or link state? And when you use that, if the user is refreshed, the state is lost, right? I don't think that you necessarily need to use mobx, and if you're using the newest Apollo client, we have link state built into that, so you can use local state on the client just right out of the box. I'll give you an idea of how I'm managing my like user state. So let's see. I have. Hey, Taylor C. Johnson, thank you so much for the follow. Okay, so in my app here, I have this logged in setting. Not sure, of course. Thank you for the follow as well. All right, let's try to answer your question here. So I have this user login, and what happens here, I'll just take you through the whole kind of process. So in my require auth component, I have this login form, that one that you just saw me log in with. And this just has a form with 2 inputs, username or email password. And when I submit that form, I send a request to a serverless function that I call auth, and this is what it looks like. I parse the username and password out of a basic auth header that I set. This is the basic auth header, so I grab the value of the email field and the value of the password field, and I concatenate them using a colon between them. And then I base64 encode that and send that as this basic authorization header. Okay, so the auth function then picks this up. It gets the email as this name value and the password as this pass value. And then I'm basically saying, like, from my DB, I want to select these fields from the user's table where it has an email that is like the value that I passed to my basic auth header. And then I check to see if that user exists. I check to see if the password that was entered is correct, and if it is, then I send back a healthy status code and a JSON web token. And in all other cases, I send back an unauthorized 401 status code with a generic error message here. Okay, and then back in the login form component, if the response is okay, I decode the token from the response and then set that token in my local storage. And then I call this client.resetStore. And client, in this case, is coming from, it's my Apollo client instance. I'm using this use Apollo client hook to get my current Apollo client. And what resetStore does is it clears everything from my cache and forces any queries that are currently on the page to refetch themselves. And the one query that I'm particularly interested in this case, is this one. So I'm using my Apollo use query hook with this get user query as its query argument. And all this get user does is it fetches this user field with this @client directive. And what this @client directive does is it tells Apollo to look for this user field under my client-side resolvers. So that's what I've set up in here. In my Apollo client instance, I'm using this resolvers option to set up this user function, or a user field on my root query field there. And all this user resolver does is it gets the token that I just set in local storage, and then it tries to decode that token and return it. And in all other cases, it will return null. So user is either like an object or it's null. And so yeah, what that does is then I can use this kind of conditional statement. So I can say if data.user resolves to something that's truthy or not null, then we can render the app, or render whatever is passed into this require auth component. I'll show you how this is actually used in practice. But again, in all other cases, then we want to render this block of JSX, which is this screen here. So when I'm on one of these like authenticated pages, what I'll do is just wrap my page content in this require auth component. And what this does is, again, it fires off this get query or get user query. And then if we have a user, it'll render the content that's passed into the component. And in all other cases, it just renders a login form. And that's really it. And then for logging out, I do a similar thing where I'm just removing the token from local storage and once again resetting the store using client.resetStore. And that does the trick for me. I don't have to use MobX or link state or anything like that. But yeah, you can take advantage of writing conditions around like showing certain parts of your app if you have a user authenticated, or show something else if you don't. Yeah, I hope that answered your question. This is just like one kind of like authorization scheme. I understand that like some other apps might use something different. Like, okay, cool. Yeah, if that's what you're doing and it's working for you, then I'd say just keep doing that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. No, it sounds like you're good, man. All right. So anyway, back to the task at hand here. I've grabbed the file out of my data transfer item. Yeah, I think if the current solution is working for you, then you should have feel no pressure to adjust. Of course, there might come a time where you need something else, but I can't tell you like what would necessitate that exactly. All right. So what was I saying? We're already doing this like signed S3 uploads, and I'm gonna look at another component for an example of how to do this. So this is what this looks like. So when I submit this create project form, I'm trying to get the file input, and then I fire off this mutation to my create signed URL mutation, which just takes a MIME type and a file name, both of which I already have. The login page looks so good. Thank you. I appreciate that. I did not make it. I wish I could say I made it. All the art in this app is done by one of my favorite artists, actually. So I'm so, yeah, it feels really, really good to have her art in the app. But I'll link her Instagram in here. So yeah, she's done all of the art for this app, and just an amazing artist. I'll show you another one of the pieces that she did is this like app empty state. This is I think it's just a JPEG. Yo, what's up, Kurt? YOLO's in the MFing chat, y'all. Dude, your Twitch API escapades sounded daunting. I'm so glad that you made it through, though. Awesome. What is your like editing program of choice? Not sure, of course. I commissioned her to make all the art in this app, so it's all. Yeah, I have the license to use it. Oh, got you. Use Twitch highlights. Right on. Okay, so I'm gonna want to make use of this create signed URL mutation. And in here, I'm doing kind of an odd thing where I'm already using this use mutation hook, and so I'm using this use mutation hook to make a different GraphQL mutation, and so conveniently, I'm just using client.mutate to do this signed URL mutation. So I want to do the same kind of create signed URL mutation. So rather than just rather than writing the same mutation out in my block form component, I'm going to take this out of the project form and import it from its eventual home in utils. So now both of these components can use the same mutation, and everybody lives happily ever after. Okay, so that'll do it for project form. And then in the block form, I can go and say, add it to my import here, create signed URL. Not sure, of course. She was pretty expensive. It's certainly not cheap, but I guess the best way to find out is just send her a DM or an email and ask her for a quote. God's gift to Earth. Yeah, go ahead, shoot. Let's hear what your question is. Just a disclaimer: I don't write Java actually, so that might be challenging to answer your question, but I can certainly try. All right, so notes input. I have my create signed URL mutation, and what I'm going to do is using the use mutation hook from Apollo. I can just pass that create signed URL query document in there and create signed URL. I get this function that I can then call from right here. All right, so let's see. I get, I would normally get this like loading and error states. I don't know if it's going to really work for my purposes here, because what I want to do, similar to what I'm doing in the project form component, is I want to get the data from the I want to await this mutation instead of have it instead of leveraging the hook and grabbing the loading and error states from the hook return value. I want to just do it inline here. I want to block everything until I get data, and then fire off a XML HTTP request to the S3 direct link. All right, God's gift. Let's read this. So you have an else if statement for user login, and if you pass it correct, it opens a new window. But if you pass it wrong, it straight away closes the current window. Sheesh, I don't know. That's it's tricky. I don't have a lot of context to know exactly how you're handling your user login, and yeah, that's a tricky one to answer, honestly. And I'm thinking that I can probably reuse some of this code as well, but let's just do this for now. Ooh. So I'm going to destructure data from the return value of create signed URL, and I'll pass it in some variables. It just takes this one input variable, just like this, and I can probably just do something like that. And then using data, upload data dot, what is it? Data dot create signed URL dot source. And to use this await key, this await, what was I going to call this? Doesn't matter. I have to append this async keyword. That's the word I was looking for before my function definition here. So let's see. What if I just take this and I'll go to my utils function again, and I'm going to create a new function called upload file to S3. And it's just going to return this promise. And maybe what I can do it's going to need to take this file, like the actual file that I'm uploading, but it'll also need this like create signed URL body to grab the URL and the key that it's eventually going to resolve with. So maybe the signature can look something like this, where I pass in the file as a first argument and then data.createSignedURL as the second. Let's see it like that should do the trick for me. And I'm gonna make us a little to do here that says optionally handle progress events. So the great thing about XML HTTP request, as compared with something like fetch, or even I don't think Axios supports this either, is progress events. So as your upload is happening, I can get events telling me how much of that file has been uploaded. So I can have like a loading indicator, some like bar that grows as the file gets uploaded. I'm just going to name this function more generically upload file. I wonder if I should like mention that this is a signed URL, like upload signed URL. Maybe not. Upload file is good enough for me. And make sure to export this. And now I can go and replace it in my project form, first of all. Go and upload file. And replace this await new promise stuff with instead await my upload file function, and I'm going to pass in, like I was saying, my first argument is the file, and the second argument is data.createSignedURL. Now I can get rid of all that. Beautiful. Cool. Now we can do the same thing over in the block form. I'll say const key equals await upload file. Come on, VS Code, auto import it for me. There we go. With file and data.createSignedURL as my two arguments. And then finally, I'm going to console log that key. Okay, that should do it. Now, while all this is happening, I want to disable the field, or this like text field, so that nothing else can kind of like happen to screw up the text that I'm going to be manipulating in here. So what I'm going to do is, before any of this async stuff happens, we can just say set loading to true, and then after all of this stuff is finished, set loading back to false. And set loading is undefined, hence the red squiggly. So why don't we go up here and define it? We'll say loading, and set loading is going to be the return value of use state from React, and the default value is going to be false. And then while we're loading, we can just disable the text field. So we'll say is disabled is equal to that loading state that we just defined. All right, so now I'm going to be paying attention to my console, and hopefully we get a key back depicting the location of the file that I just uploaded. So we drag it over, and there it is. There's my my new file. So if we go to, what would the URL be? I don't know off the top of my head, but that's okay. I can find out. It would be like this. Maybe maybe this can be the return value for the key. But there's my uploaded file. So the upload worked. That's really good. Now we have to do this kind of complicated part about actually adding the loading indicator to the text field. And I just want to make sure that this actually disabled, and it does. It does. You can see it kind of flash gray there. Perfect. So what I'd really like to do is display that loading text wherever my cursor is. That would be really nice. And yeah, while I'm at it, I just want to look at this. So key is equal to just this. Like, what if I just appended the URL part before the key? Something to consider. Maybe I'll write a to-do there. Like, to-do, consider appending rest of S3 URL here. Okay. But for now, I can just worry about doing this loading state within my text area. So to do this, the first thing I'm going to want to do is change this text area from an uncontrolled input, which is what it currently is. It doesn't. I'm not handling an onChange state or passing in a specific value here. I'm relying on this default value prop. So what that means is that it sets the original state of the input, but then all of the key presses from then on are not being handled by JavaScript or anything like that. They're just I'm taking advantage of the default input behavior in the browser. So what I'm going to want to do instead is say we'll give this a value prop. Value prop. That's like a business thing, isn't it? And or maybe you know what, we can keep this default value. Yeah, I'm gonna keep the prop called default value, and instead of just spreading it onto the text area, what I'll do is define notes input dot prop types a default value, which is going to be a string, and it's going to be required. And we're going to use this as the default state for some local value state that I can define in here. So props.default value, and this is going to be called, state's going to be called value, and the setter will be set value. Shocker, right? And then we can link it up to this text area like so. Give the value prop my value state variable, and then on change we'll create a handle change function. I almost feel like this having a separate function is overkill in this case. Like I could just say event, make a function that takes an event argument and calls set value with the event target value. And everything works as it did before, except now the big difference is within my handle drop function, I can actually affect the value of the input directly, whereas before I couldn't, because there was no way for me to mutate that value outside of actually typing in the text field. So let's see. So when I start my upload, I say set loading to true, and just to test this out, let's say set value to, like, we'll take the previous value and just say pre-value plus, maybe we'll add a couple new lines, and write in the same style as GitHub does. Remember, we're using GitHub as our inspiration here. Let's see what happens. If my cursor's on this line, that's the extent of my content, and I upload a new file, it just breaks it onto the next line, and then it does this kind of thing, like exclamation mark, uploading file name, ... And what do they put in this? I have to read that again. Nothing. Okay, cool. So it's like uploading file name ... and then empty parentheses. And that didn't work, apparently. Okay, well, we're gonna make it work. Let's try this one more time just to see. Come on, GitHub, you can do it. There we go. And then it subs in the file name without the extension, and then the real location of that image. And in their case, they're just using, it looks like this is like a big UUID, which I could probably do something similar myself. Let's look at it one more time just to, yeah. So uploading file name with extension, and then the eventual value is file name without the extension, and in parentheses, the full complete URL to that file. And the file name doesn't need to be part of it at all. Okay, great. One thing I want to do just to make it really like GitHub, what I was doing before is using trying to keep part of the file name around in the file that eventually gets uploaded to S3. But instead, what I can do is just make that file name a UUID. Yeah, like if it's something like this. Great. And do I use this extension anywhere else? Like what if I just made this one line? Beautiful. UUID, and then a dot, and then the extension. Easy. All right, so what I want to do is in here say, what was it? Uploading, and then file.name. And if I look back in my console, I can actually see what one of these files looks like. So yeah, the name property is the full name with the extension. And I have to do this after I call get item as file, or item.get as file rather. So let's do that. Uploading file.name with an ellipsis, and then empty parentheses. I'm just going to do one line break. Let's see how that works. Oh, and here's what I wanted to know as well. If I already have some content in here, and I have my cursor positioned at this line, when I upload a new file, yeah, it appears right below in the line right after where my cursor is. What if I'm in the middle of this existing bit of text? It just puts it wherever my cursor is, or it creates a line break, adds the thing, and then adds another line break afterwards. But it's all dependent on your cursor position. So that's another thing that I'm going to have to account for eventually. But let's just see if this works. So I grab my image, drop it in, and uploading images.jpg. And of course, when I get my data back, I don't replace it yet, but this is great. This gives me the desired loading state. So down here, replace loading state with real image tag. Cool. So we're gonna do that in just a minute. I'm gonna go take a quick bathroom break, and then we'll keep pressing on in a minute or two. Give me a sec. Oh, okay. So we have a little loading text. The other thing I noticed is we need to add a line break after the loading text if we want it to be like GitHub. And in here I'm going to make another to-do that just says like put insert loading text after cursor, or maybe at cursor. But now, yeah, what we're going to do here is we want to replace this string with the full string to the location of our file. So to do that, what we can do is just an easy way to do this maybe would be to take this little uploading string, make a variable called placeholder, and I can just continue using it as I was, like this. And then after I get the file uploaded, we can say set value and take the previous value and just say prev value replace placeholder with let's see, we want it to just say, well, first of all, location of our file, which will be key. And then in here, we just want the file name without the extension. And we were kind of doing this before in the create signed URL resolver in my schema. We're just saying input name split on a period, and then remove the last item in the array, and then join them back together with a period. So if there's like multiple dots in the file name, it accounts for that as well. So I just copied that to my clipboard. Now I can go back here and do the same thing in here. Like we'll say file name and do all this. So we'll put file name in there and the key. This should all do the trick. Let's see what happens. Now, I will say right away, I know that this key is actually going to resolve to the wrong thing. It's not going to be a full URL to the file itself, but let's just see what happens here. So I upload, and there we go. This is what I get. Pretty sweet. Okay, so I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to resolve this to do. I'm going to append the rest of the S3 URL to this key value. So we'll do something like that. And then we can actually change the way that this file, like if I have this custom file resolver to append this the first part of this URL to the file keys that I have stored in Amazon, but maybe the play would be instead to just like I can just go in my database and update all of these file rows to, or the data in the file column to be appended with this URL part. And then I can delete that custom resolver. So we'll just do this key. I'm gonna have to go into Postico and make some updates. All right, so in playback, we've got projects, and I'm just gonna do the ones that, yeah. I'm just gonna grab this text, throw it there, and there, and this one too. Okay. So now when let's see, I just want to make sure that the music still works. I'm gonna pause the music that I've currently got going on. And yeah, that music still loads. Great. Now, when I go and try to upload a file, I'll get the full qualified URL to where that file lives. So I can just throw it right back in my Markdown and everything should work. Let's test it out. So I go upload this, and there's my Apollo Indigo file name and the full URL to the file, and if I save, there it is. We got the file upload to actually show up in there. So that's a huge milestone. Really excited to see that. Okay. And maybe this should be like some kind of constant variable, but I don't know. To do make this base URL constant. Might get around to that, but this is the next big part of this challenge: is insert the loading text at my cursor rather than just throwing it at the end of my Markdown content. Isn't this cool, Kurt? I'm loving it, man. And I'm out of coffee now, but that's all right. I still got the coffee flowing through me. Should be good to power on through the rest of this feature. Uh-oh. Okay. Hey, what's up, Horatio? Yikes. Nice. Is that a... That's a tier 2 sub emote. Wow. Fancy. What's going on, Horatio? Welcome to the stream. All right, so now I've got this is kind of working as expected. I just need to adjust where I'm actually inserting my placeholder. So to do this, I'm going to look at Google. I'm going to type like find cursor position in text area. So I'm looking for selection start, huh? MDN, oh, I felt like something was missing. It's this, there we go. So MDN selection start. This is a habit of mine. I don't think it's terribly bad, but whenever I want to look for anything like JavaScript documentation related, I don't just search the thing, selection start, for example, or even like selection start JavaScript. Archive obsolete content. Does that mean this is obsolete? I guess in this case the first result was MDN, but it's usually WC3 and or W3 or whatever, but MDN just has superior content. Selection start. Input selection index, maybe. Well, I know that there's this selection start attribute that that these input elements have, and this handle drop event is taking place on my text area. So here's a little bit of exploration that we can do. I'm just going to console log event target. I'm expecting this to be my text area. Let's see what we get. So I drop an image actually, and for right now, I'm going to just return here. I don't need to be going through like the upload process just yet. I just want to try to get a handle on this cursor position issue. So I do this, and of course, event target is my text area. So what if I say event target selection start? What do I get then? Okay. I'm also just going to comment out set loading so that my input is never disabled. Okay, so that's 0. That one's 89. If I move up to if I put my cursor at this after the first letter, I'm expecting selection start to be 1. And indeed it is. Awesome. One sec. How rude. I'm responding to DMs during stream. Okay, so I'm getting the correct selection. My cursor index does appear to be working correctly. That's pretty cool. Oh, that's too many files. Yeah, this is crazy. I didn't realize it was that easy. Like I was expecting to have to like put a ref on my text area and do some crazy shit with that, but because the drop event is happening on my text area, I can just refer to that using event target instead. That's really handy. Okay, so now the question is, how do I insert, even if I know the index at where my cursor is in the text area, how do I actually insert some text at that index? Let's check it out. So right now I'm just appending my placeholder at the end of the previous value, but maybe what I want to do instead is say like previous value slice from the 0 index to the selection start, and then add my placeholder, and then put the rest of the previous value in at the end. So previous value event target selection start. And to do all this, I'm actually going to I'm just going to destructure selection start from the event target so that I can use less characters here. So before I even do this, I want to test something. So let's say I have some text. I'm going to blow up my console so that you guys can see. I love using the Chrome console just to like test random JavaScript ideas that I have. So let's say I have some text, foo bar baz, and I say text slice 0, and let's pick a number 3. Oh, maybe like 4. So foo and then a space. Okay, and then text slice 4 is just bar and baz. So that will work. What I was wondering is if I had to like increment this or decrement it or anything like that, but I think that this strategy will work as is. So that's good to know. Slicing it in. Yep. Sliced strings. Coolest sliced string since sliced thing since sliced bread. Damn, tongue is twisted, y'all. And if I want, like, I'm just looking at all these pluses, and I'm thinking maybe this is like, does that look ugly? Kind of, huh? Here's another option. Instead of writing these new lines, like being repetitive like that, we can say, and this might look too obscure actually, but curious to hear what you guys think of this. So I just put all 3 of these things in an array, and then I'd say join using a new line. How do we feel about that? Does that look too magical? I kind of like it. Personally. Personally, it's pretty cool. All right. All right. Cool. Appreciate the encouragement, guys. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna slice the previous value from its start to the current cursor position, insert the placeholder, and then put the rest of the previous value on the end, and then join them all together with new lines so that placeholder gets separated onto its own line. So now if I try adding, cool, I still have my set loading to true there. If I try uploading a file here, it works as I would expect it to. And there it is. There's our image. That looks pretty good, honestly. All right. What about a big image? Let's try this. Where's a big image that I have? Let's try this. Is that big? Yeah, it's kind of big. But it already resizes automatically. That's incredible. Why is it even doing that? Ah, this is awesome. So I'm taking advantage of, I'm using Chakra UI in this app. And I guess Chakra UI just automatically adds this max width 100% and height auto to images, like all images in the page. That's pretty nice. And I have this span added there. I don't know what the deal is with that, but okay. Yeah, no, I'm gonna take a pass on that, Kurt. I like my day job. Okay, cool. So I have images that even large images work in here. I think I need to give these images some space. What do you think? I suppose like if they're all separated on their own lines, they should, yeah, they get a space because they're within p tags. So maybe I can adjust my new line strategy. Instead of just joining them with one new line, what if I join them with 2? Now I realize that this isn't exactly what GitHub does, right? But like if I put two images side by side in GitHub, what happens? Yeah, they both get put in one p tag, and they put a break between them. That's interesting. Anyway, I think this is pretty good. This should do the trick, and I'm just going to join them with one new line to be extra GitHub-like. Your worst days are dealing with images. I feel that sometimes they can be a pain. One of the coolest things that I've found in the world of images, and as it pertains to like CSS and HTML, is object fit. Check this out. So object fit allows you is a CSS property that you can define on an image that allows you to do things like cover and contain the way you would with like a div using a background image, but you get to do it using like on an image itself. I'll show you how this works. So let's say I have this image and I want it to be a square. I want it to be a particular size. Let's say width 300 pixels and height 300 pixels. So normally that would mean that the image gets stretched. In this case, it gets stretched vertically. What I can do to avoid that is just say object fit on the image and let's say cover. And this will behave the same way that like background size cover would on a div element with a background image. And you can do things like contain as well. Now you can see that the image tries to like fit as large as it can within the current dimensions of that you gave the image, but it won't exceed those bounds, just like background size contain. And then you can also specify object position, like top, let's say, if you want it to be anchored to the top or bottom, left, right, same kind of things. Left and right in this case might make more sense if I'm using cover. I'll say object position left or right, and yeah, you can use it like that. Horatio, is this open source? You're dealing with a rich text editor, and it's cool to see how it's done with a simple text area. Yeah, dude, I believe it is. Let's see. I forget what the status of this was, but playback. Yeah, currently it's private, but yeah, once this round of changes gets merged into master, I will open source it. The repos here, I don't know if that's probably not much not of much use to you. But yeah, like with regards to this like GitHub style image uploads, I can do something like this for you. If I go like, what am I calling this? Block form.js. I'll just make it gist, and hopefully it will give you the gist of what I'm doing. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. So you can check that out as a reference. It's not going to paint the full picture because there's obviously some other pieces involved, but hopefully that gives, like, points you in the right direction. You can get away with a lot when it comes to like rich text editing with just a text area. However, one of the crutches that I rely on here is Markdown. Let's see if I even have these headings configured. If I specify a heading, yeah, no, I haven't got these yet, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like the code that I've currently got in master isn't stuff that I just want to like share publicly at this point, but the code that you're looking at or the app that you're looking at on screen here definitely is something that I want to share and like make examples out of. So yeah, it'll happen, but unfortunately, I'm gonna have to keep it private for the time being. Yeah. This designer, by the way, Maison Margiela, learned about that recently. Yeah, be impressed. Be very impressed. Okay, so that should do it for image uploads. Maybe what I'll do is do this handle headings in my Markdown content, and I'll show you how I'm parsing this Markdown content into React components right now. But before I do that, I'm going to make a commit and just say I'm going to say wire up GitHub like image uploads. Yeah, you got the right idea. Yeah, so using Remarker Unified, I love those APIs. By the way, I'm a big Remark fan. If you check out my GitHub, you'll see I've made a few Remark plugins, like Remark TypeScript, which converts TypeScript code blocks to JavaScript. That can be pretty useful sometimes. And then what else? I made some other Remark stuff. Remark. Yeah, like a Remark plugin that rewrites relative links in Gatsby, or a Remark plugin that detects broken links in your Gatsby site. But I'm a big Remark fan. For this project in particular, I'm actually using where is it? In Blocks feed, I'm using a library called React Markdown, and this is a really useful little component that allows me to just pass in a string of Remark content, and then I'm allowed to specify these render functions that look something like this. Based on these little nodes that I pass in, for example, I'm going to be making a heading one. I think it's called heading, probably not header, right? I can just return some JSX. And really control the rendering of this. Now another I'm a big Remark plugin fan. I actually gave a talk recently about one of these Remark plugins that I wrote, or like it's like the whole kind of origin story of this Remark plugin that converts TypeScript code samples to JavaScript. I can link that in the chat if you're interested. Actually, here, why don't I link the YouTube video? That might be better. Reactadelphia. All right, cool. Well, you're gonna have to apologize for the heading, and I will get the level, and that's what I'll use to decide what type of heading to render. So let's see. For this, I'm just going to go and say, I'm just going to spread all the props that I get to this function to a div, and console log the props. What's going on here? What did I do wrong? Oh, I need to make it self-closing. There we go. I could also check out in the documentation for this library, they do talk about nodes. Right here, node types. So a heading from H1 to H6. Let's just take a look at what props I'm given here. So level 2 and children. Those are the relevant things that I need here. So what I can do is say like destructure level from my props, and then grab the rest of the props and spread them into the element. And then what I can do is, because I'm using Chakra, I'll use the heading component and say as h plus level. And that will at least give me the right semantic, like the right semantics here. I have an h2, and it happens to have this crazy span thing going on inside of it. Okay, whatever. But now if I say I want an h3, heading 3, they both have the same size, even though if I inspect this element, this one is indeed an h3 and this one's an h2, so that's good. But I need them to have a different font size. And I'm also getting this level is missing in props validation error. So to get around that, I'm going to do something similar to what I've done with these like highlighted text and custom list components, which is just break these out into a custom heading component. I'll define that right here. Custom heading will look the same as what I've got, but I'm going to define a prop type for it to get rid of that red underline. We'll just say level is, we're expecting it to be a number, and it's should always be there. Okay, now I've got the right tag being used, but I want to use the correct font size too. So in Chakra, we have access to this like kind of like size-based props. If you think about like clothing sizes, so small, medium, large, XL, 2XL, and so on. So just thinking about how like how I can facilitate this mapping. Maybe one way that we can do this is like say font sizes, or maybe like be specific, heading font sizes, and we'll just say like, okay, so for H1s, I want it to be 4XL, H2, 3XL, 3 is 2XL, 4 is XL, 5 is large, 6 is medium. Let's try this. I can now say in my font size prop just heading font sizes and then pass in the level. I'm used to calling this level depth. I think that's what they call it in Remark, or I might be completely confused, and it's also called level there. But now I'm actually getting these headings to render at the correct font size. So this should be a big one. And that looks pretty good, honestly. I kind of like it. Yeah, I mean, I think that this heading font sizes map is probably a good solution. It's straightforward. I can see at a glance like what font sizes I am expecting these things to map to. I don't think there's a more elegant solution that I'd want to pursue there. So I'd say that's pretty good, and I'm gonna commit that. Render headings in Markdown. Yeah, dude, hey, all credit goes to this React Markdown library. It really makes it easy. Okay. Pretty cool. What if I want to insert an image after this? Let's see. We're going to insert this image. Oh, interesting. It says unnamed. Is it called unnamed? Oh, it is called unnamed.png. Great. And there it is. Pretty sweet. And I think those images, like the upload stuff, is working as I expect it to. Have I worked on Expo? I actually have, yeah. I built an Expo app. Shoot, how long ago would it have been? Like 3 or 4 years ago? So it's probably changed a lot since then, but even then it was amazing. You're having a hard time using notifications on Android. Huh. Well, I remember when I used Expo back then, I actually had to go through a different, like a third-party service to make notifications work. It was called Push Whoosh. And it looks like they're still around. I don't know if there's like a better service out there now. Like I said, this was a long time ago, but yeah, Push Whoosh was the notification service that I had to use when I tried to do that before. But I haven't used it, like I said, in years, so things may have changed. Okay, one more thing that I want to do while I'm in this is when I make some updates to this text area, I want to be able to hit. I'm so used to, like, in Slack you can do this, and I think in GitHub as well. If I make some updates, I can hit, and I give it a title. I can say Command plus Enter to submit that, to submit the changes. So I'm gonna do something similar here. I want to be able to submit my text area when I hit Command Enter in it. Yeah, I'm not really sure what the deal is now. If I just search like Expo push notifications, let's see what the deal is. So they does look like they have a push notification tool, and they have this Expo notifications library, it looks like. If this is, yeah, this might be what you're looking for here. That's really frustrating, not sure. I would maybe look at, like, if, well, they have a mono repo, but if we look in here for like notifications, I wonder if other people are having the same struggles. Do you know if it's working in iOS? Like, can you test it in iOS Simulator and see if those are working? Anyway, there's there's a whole lot of issues in here, but it might be worth combing through here for some other answers or discussions that are already happening about that issue. I'm out of coffee. I forgot. I said that like 15 minutes ago. Water will do the trick, though. All right. See you later, Kurt. You have a good rest of your weekend, man. I'll catch you on Monday. Ooh. Change the size of the text area depending on the content. Let's check it out. Is this something that you made, Horatio? Text area auto size. Yeah, you did make it. Awesome, dude. How do I star this or like sandbox? There we go. Hopefully then I can come back to it later. But so we're looking at this. We have an inner value. Yeah, this looks good. We set the inner value like we're doing in mine, but then this update function. When does this update function run? So whenever the value changes, we run update. And then the style of the height, or the text area height, we grab from the div. Let's see where the div is. The div is, oh, interesting. Okay, so how does this work? LH, what is this from? Is it simple enough to explain in chat there, Horatio? What is actually going on in here? So I see you have this text area sizer, but I'm not sure how it expands its size. Let's test. Nice. I like it. Okay, cool. Oh, I think I see what's going on. So this div, its inner HTML is getting set explicitly in this update function, and that's gonna like expand it. That'll like expand it automatically because that's how divs work, not how text areas work. But then we can get the height of the expanded div and then set it as the height of the text area. That's pretty sweet, man. I like it. I like that a lot. I've got it liked, so I might come back to there for inspiration another time. Cool. All right, what else do I have to do here? I guess I can cross this GitHub-style image uploads off of my list. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, nice. I like that. I like that technique a lot, Horatio. It's really cool. I guess if I wanted to do the same thing in here, I would also have to account for the padding in my text area, right? Because that could have like an impact on when lines break or not. But that would be pretty nice, like just to have this auto expand. Something to think about for sure. I'm just gonna add some comments in here so I can remember what I was doing. So like insert placeholder at current cursor position. I guess that line is kind of self-explanatory. And then replace placeholder with valid image markdown. Cool. I'm pretty pumped about that. Oh, right. The thing that I was just thinking about doing was this command plus enter to save changes. So let's do that now. So the way I'm going to do this is actually just give this text area an on key down prop, and then in there I can say I can check what key was pressed. For example, I can say if event code equals enter, I think, or maybe it's return. Let's console log save. And just to be safe, I'm going to also console log the event code property. Maybe event code is not the thing that I'm looking for. Event.key, I think, is the thing. So yeah, it's capital E enter. So if event key is enter, and I want to make sure that the command key is also being held. Maybe I should look for either the command key or the control key if it's Windows. let's see. Event key modifier. So I'm going to look for the word modifier key. So this documentation says the keyboard event object describes a user interaction with a keyboard. Each event describes a single interaction between the user and a key, or a combination of a key with modifier keys. And that's the part that I'm particularly interested in. So let's look for modifier keys. So I can get modifier state, which is just a Boolean if a modifier key was pressed, but I want to know specifically which modifier key was pressed. And in my case, that is this meta key property. So it's a Boolean that's true if the meta key, so on Mac keyboards, the command key, or the Windows key on Windows keyboards. I don't really care about the Windows key. If it's a Windows key, or it's a Windows computer, I'm going to want to rely on the control key. Control enter, I think. Let's see what happens in GitHub. How do they deal with that? Yeah, so control and enter work as well. Just set the same text area styles to the div. Yeah, that's a great idea. And I could probably do that in a similar fashion to how you're doing it in like in a use effect hook, like setting the styles on the div via a ref. Like just copy the styles from the text area, slap them on the div. Enough said. That would be pretty cool. What I'm wondering actually is if I return a fragment here and I just say, because I'm using chakra, I can use this as prop. What if I say I want to render a text area as a div? Is that even allowed? Oh, I forgot to finish this thought here. So let's first see if this text area as div works. There it is. That's wild. So I can render a text area like div using this kind of behavior. And then maybe what I could do is say like, I can make this a box, position relative, and then this text, the real text area, can just be position absolute, height full, width full, and then the inner text area is going to be the one that actually, like does the expanding. Let's see. Okay, so that didn't quite work, but what if I just made the content of this text area? Hey, Dark Tower Builder, thank you for the follow. Really appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying the stream. Let's see what happens if I just give this inner text area the value of the other one. Okay, so that didn't quite work. But what if I say white space pre? So it respects all of the line breaks inside. Okay, again, that didn't exactly work as I was expecting it to. I see. So this text area has a specific height attached to it. I'm just going to say height auto. Cool. Now I do need it to, need it to break its lines. So white space pre isn't going to work. Pre-wrap, I think is what it's called. Nice. Okay. So now that I have that working, I can say, maybe I can call this visibility hidden. So it'll still take up space in the DOM, but it will be hidden from view. And there's one big discrepancy between these two things still, is the font size. I believe the font size, yeah, I'm gonna need to give this a size large prop. And now visibility hidden. Let's see if that works. Oh, so close. So there's some discrepancy there. Maybe it will do opacity. Opacity. How do I want to say this? Yeah. Opacity 0.5. Interesting. I'm going to give this one a different color so I can tell the two apart. So the red text, hopefully, oh, I see what I did wrong. Let's call this tomato. You said use is hotkey for that helps you cross browser. That's a good idea. So I guess this allows me to define different hotkeys depending on the what do you call it? Operating system. Accepts mod for the classic command on Mac, control on Windows use case. That's exactly what I'm looking for. That's pretty sweet. I dig it. I'm gonna keep this tab open just in case. But for right here, I want to know why these lines are breaking differently. So let's just take a look at what the text area renders as. If I go visibility hidden again, oh, so now this works. I wonder why I had to do that. Let's just try this. Give this visibility hidden, and there it is. Now if I, yeah, it doesn't work totally because as soon as I introduce this scroll bar, it breaks these things differently. So maybe the solution is actually to make this not scrollable. If I say overflow hidden. Yeah. And now okay. That's getting closer, except now this presents an issue with an empty line at the end. Makes the thing think if the line is if the last line is empty, it makes the div think it's smaller than it actually is. Okay. Okay, let's check out this like HTML white space pre-wrap empty line. I wonder how I can debug this. I do like this this kind of like auto expanding. The other thing I noticed is that this is overlapping, so we can fix that really quick while I consider what to do with the last line. So why don't I just give this play bar at the bottom of the window a little bit of Z index. It's already position sticky, so we'll say Z index sticky, which is a shorthand in Chakra to a predefined Z index value, and that does the trick. Okay, now in here, what I'm going to try to do is just console log value, and let's see what we can get from it. So you'll see when I add a new line to the end, it doesn't seem to be reflected in here unless I add 2 new lines. Okay, so let's see, HTML. Last new line stripped. Here's another thing that I'm going to try to do. I'm going to look for the last character in the string. That doesn't work. All right. How about value length -1? So now it's L. Save. Oh, let's just console log this for now. Or I mean, comment that out for now. The empty line happens in your example too? Ah, crap. Well, let's try to fix it. Maybe if I can come to a solution here, then you might be able to as well, and that could be pretty sweet. Let's see if it is equal to new line. Okay, so that gets us a little bit closer, doesn't it? What if I say conditionally render in here? Let's just conditionally render an extra new line if the last value in the thing is a new line, and that seems to do the trick. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I'm just wondering if there's a more succinct way to write this. I think that's pretty good though. New line constant. Is there such thing as a new line constant? No. So it doesn't do this when I have spaces, but it does insert new lines when it is a real new line. I'm just gonna make a comment about this. If the last char is a new line, it doesn't have an effect normally. Yeah. Doesn't have an effect, maybe get rendered. Yeah. Hey, thanks, Horatio. This is all just like through tinkering, man. I'm a tinkerer. All right, now back to, well, actually, before I get back to this, let's just delete this key down stuff, and I'm gonna make a commit that says something to the effect of like this thing being auto expanding, and I just want to see. Oh shit! Cannot read char at of undefined. All right. So when this is, I'm really glad I tested this. So when we create a new block, description starts out as undefined. So maybe what I can do instead is say, I already have this default value defined in my prop types for this. So what I'm going to do is just give it a notes input default props. Default value is just an empty string if it's not otherwise defined, or if it's, in this case, if it's undefined. So now when I create a new block, that's what I get. Great. Now I want this to have a larger minimum height, so I can just say min h is 320 pixels, just like I had it before. But now, like, if we expand, that should expand as well. Sweet. Love it. Love it. Guys, this is some sweet work. Let's make a commit. I'm just going to make a commit here that says add comments, and then we'll get on to the auto-expanding stuff, which is all in here. And I'm going to write one more comment above the text area div. Create a div that acts as a sizer for the text area above. Just so that I can remember what I was doing amidst all this chaos. And we'll say auto expand the text area when new text is added to it. Close that double quote and push that. All right, last thing for today's stream is going to be this onKey event, onKey down rather. We're going to take the event and say if event.key equals enter and either event, what is it, meta key or event control key, then we're going to save. Let's see if we can make that happen. So when I press enter, normally nothing happens. But when I go command enter or control enter, we get this save in our console. And interestingly, it doesn't create new lines either. So I don't think I need to prevent default in this case. And if I wanted to get into like using a different modifier on depending on the operating system, maybe I can console log something here. Navigator check operating system. So I know that the property on the window that I want to look at is Navigator. OS CPU gives you the Windows version. Maybe MDN will have more information. Operating system, OS maybe. Here we go. Now I'm sure there's an npm package that will also allow me to do this. Let's check that out. Like, what is it? Or should I just look for operating system? is Windows? Seven kilobytes. That's rather large for something like this. What's actually happening in here? Oh, this doesn't look like 7 kilobytes. I think this was only going to work in Node, not in the browser. So yeah, npm search isn't that great, huh? Let's see. Detect operating system JavaScript npm. Oh, bonus points for a cute image. Maybe mobile detect is what I am after here. Well, let's see. So results, phone, blah, blah, blah. You know what? This is all great, but I think for now, especially considering we want to use GitHub as like a measuring stick, and GitHub actually accepts control and command as modifier keys, I think that I feel comfortable doing the same in my app. Maybe as a future, we can say like to do use different modifiers for Windows/Mac, but for right now, I'm not too interested in that. Once an event passes this condition, we just want to submit. So, well, one thing I'm going to do first of all is just move this to a different function, handle key down, define it out here. Like so. And here's an awesome little thing. Because I'm already using a ref on my submit button in the form that this text area lives in, I can just pass that as a prop to the notes input. I can say submit ref and then consume it in here. We'll say submit ref is going to be an object. It's always going to be an object, and I'm expecting it to exist all the time. And then in here, if we pass this condition, I could just call props submit ref click, simulate a click event on my submit button, and it should just work. So if I go in here and go Command Enter, I get an error in my console. Submit ref click is not a function. So because submit ref is a React ref, I should actually be reaching into the current property of it. Let's see if that works. I'm just going to delete a couple images and then Command Enter to save, and there we go. It's as easy as that. And now we have a really nice text area that auto expands. Thank you so much, Horatio, for the inspiration there. It accepts images. Uh-oh, I need to unplug and replug my mouse to make this work. It accepts images automatically uploaded to S3 and then subbed in GitHub-style. And we can submit using Command and Enter. Not bad. Cool. Well, that should do it for today, guys. I'm going to make one last commit, and then we're going to wrap up. Submit form with Command Enter in the text area. Push that to my serverless branch. And let's see. I'm gonna check to see if we have anybody we can raid on this fine Saturday afternoon. What do we feel like? I think we're gonna raid. We can raid either Coding Garden or Chris Griffin. I think we're gonna go with Chris. Help out the homie, and yeah, should be fun. He's building a project using Electron, React, Node.js. It's like right up my alley. So hope you guys all enjoy as well. But yeah, just want to say thank you so much, everybody who tuned in and who's still sticking around here. That was a fun one today. I'm gonna create a highlights video and put that up on YouTube so we can go back and review the work done. If you want to go and build a component just like this for yourself, you should have all the information to do so in there. Let's go raid CM Griffin. All right, guys. Yeah, thanks again. Have a great Saturday, and we'll see you next time. Should be live on Wednesday afternoon around 6:30 Pacific, so hope to see everybody there. Peace out.